Good morning, everyone. I think it is good morning still. Um, I want all of you to be with me here and visualize a place. I'm standing on top of the world, literally. It's at 17,500 feet. Everywhere that I look, I see clear blue skies with clouds dotted in different shapes and sizes. Um, I see like a panoramic view of a mountainous desert that is Ladakh. It's a beautifully overwhelming place because wherever I see infinity and beyond. And I realize I'm just a tiny speck in this entire universe. Um, can you imagine a place like this? It's at 17,500 feet, where oxygen is probably 50% of what you get at sea level. So it's a little hard on breathing, but it's beautiful. And then, if you're with me, I look down, and what do I see? I see trash and litter all around me. They tell me it's a place that not many people visit. The place is called Varila. And it's ironic that that got me worried in that moment because what I saw there kind of defined the next decade of my life. So around a decade ago, I went to Ladakh with a bunch of friends. And then we got to a place which was called Varela. About 10 kilometers before Varela, we actually got down at a place called High Camp. And through those snake-like zigzaggy roads, we actually ran or actually walked because over 5,000 meters, you're not supposed to run. So we actually brisk walked towards that place. We were all so pumped with our achievement. But when I saw litter and trash all around me, the thing that I did was I started picking up. Not just me, but all my friends started picking up that litter. In 30, 45 minutes, we were able to clean up that place pretty much the entirety of it through nooks and crannies as well. And this wasn't even Khardungla, right? A lot of us would have heard of Khardungla. At one point, the highest motorable pass in the world, thousands of tourists go there. And in a year, not many people go there, and yet there was so much litter and trash and plastic. That's what really got me thinking. And that one moment, like I said, right, defined the next decade of my life and actually got me here in front of all of you guys. Now, from there, let's move back to what I was doing before 2016. Um, I was living a dream life. I was living the high flying corporate career. I was taking 4 to 6 flights a week. I was living in all the top 5-star hotels in the country and abroad. I was leading a multinational sales team, and some of the people that I used to manage were way more experienced than me. So I was literally a high achiever in a big corporate company, like I said, literally living a dream life. Raked in a big moolah, pretty much what we all wait for or what our parents aspire us to do. But something was amiss. I wanted to do more with my life. And and at that time, I was 85 kgs. Over the last few years, where I put myself deep dive into the corporate career, I didn't necessarily have time for health. So when in 2016 I took a health check, I realized there's something needs to be done. So I started running, and when in the morning you wake up, there are not many people and not much traffic. What did I see? Litter, trash, and plastic. And then I saw two kinds of people mostly. I saw people who would see the same thing I saw and moved on. Ignorance is bliss. And then I saw the second kind of people who would see the same thing and cuss and blame the government, blame the neighbor, blame everybody else. And those people, after their training, would sit in the car, throw a banana peel out, throw a plastic bottle out. And I was like, let's not be any of these people. Let's create another category of people. This wasn't my thought, but in hindsight, that's how I was thinking. So I started picking up litter without knowing what I really wanted to do, without really thinking about a national movement, without necessarily thinking that I wanted to get the entire country to join me in this mission to clean up the country, because that wasn't even a thought. But what happened after that was the next weekend, parents, my friends, they got their children for our next cleanup drive. And that got me thinking, we might be onto something. And from there, I still had my corporate career. I still had a tech startup. So I was traveling around the country. Wherever I used to go, I used to introduce the local running groups to this concept, which we later called blogging, which is picking up litter while jogging. So initially, we tricked people into coming for a cleanup or a run, and we got them to clean up. But when they did, it stayed with them. Because when you bend down to pick up somebody else's litter, you will not litter again. And what I saw was that just by this one simple act of shared concern, strangers turned into community, cynicism into action. And I think that was very, very powerful for me. So this is how my journey started. Now, let's cut to 2019. Uh, I had already gone to Ladakh. I had an epiphany, which I've shared with you, and I wanted to do something about it. So I left my corporate career, I left the tech startup, thinking that I want to take this mission, the epiphany that I had, the mindset that I wanted to shift around litter, around waste, around responsibility, civic responsibility. I wanted to take this to every nook and corner of the country. So I started a movement called the Run to Make India Litter Free. I started running from Kochi to Kashmir, 50 cities, 50 days, 1,000 kilometers. The numbers are not important. But I will tell you a couple of stories that might find resonance with you. I was in a place called Kundapur. It's in Mangalore, close to Mangalore. Um, I was invited to do a small storytelling session with kids about 6, 7, 8 years old, really young kids. And I was like, what will I tell these kids? These are really little kids, and I can't take them for a cleanup drive as well. So it was a storytelling session. I went there thinking about maybe I'll narrate my story like when I was a child, what I saw in Delhi, how things changed, how leaves which were supposedly green now have turned black, how there's dust all around, how I got sinusitis because of all the pollution, how my dream to represent the country in cricket and in a few other sports that I played kind of went in air when I actually developed sinusitis and an acute allergy to smoke and cigarette smoke as well. So I narrated them the story in about 30, 40 minutes. And by the end of it, the room full of those little children said, we don't want to hear your story. We want to be a part of it. And what we did was the next 3 hours we spent at a beach nearby, actually cleaning up that beach. It was probably 40 degrees at that time. And those little kids, drenched in sweat, actually cleaned up the beach. That really got me so motivated that day. And that's why I said this is beyond numbers. I'll tell you another story, which is closer home, and you guys might find it interesting because it is from another Sriram school. One of the first schools that I started working with, this was in 2017, was in Gurgaon, the Sriram school. Molsari, yes. Yes, the Sriram school Molsari. They have a sabzi mandi right outside their school. So when the teachers, some of them are my friends, we used to trek together in the Aravlis. They said, we want to do this. What can we do with the kids? And I'm like, and ma'am shared with me as well that you guys go out, do cleanups, do a lot of other environmental activities. But how does that stick? How does that thing become a thing that is inherent, ingrained in you, and not necessarily something that people are preaching? Something that you learn on your own. Because I believe people follow your actions, not your words. And kids, if you set right examples for them, they will take whatever they have to the good of it and actually make it 10x and take it back to their communities and their places and their friends. And that's most important. So with the Sriram school, what we did was we said, okay, what do you want to do? The kids said, there's a sabzi mandi outside. We see a lot of litter there. Can we do something about it? Sure. We went every second week with a new bunch of kids so that everybody gets an opportunity. The first couple of times we went, we cleaned up that place spick and span. The kids were very happy that, look, we've cleaned up the place. It now is litter free. And they went back home feeling satisfied and a sense of achievement. A couple of weeks later, we went back to the same place with a few of the same kids, but a bunch of new kids as well. The same kids from the previous batch were absolutely disappointed. The place was dirtier than before. How did that happen? We just cleaned it up. So I asked the children, what can we do better? What is it that we can do? And there was a consensus that we need to bring in the locals, which are the shopkeepers and consumers, people who are coming there to shop. They should be a part of this. So that's what we did. We started talking to the shopkeepers, not me. These were ideas coming from the children, from the kids, from the students themselves. We started doing this every 2 weeks. And they started carrying banners about plastics bad, and pretty cool banners, like "Cool Kids Save the Planet," right? The shopkeepers got involved over time, and I think it was the fourth or the fifth month where the shopkeepers were actually beaming with joy when we went there, and they had like big banners. They showed the kids. The banners said, "No plastic, no polythene bags. Please bring your own bag." This was way before any plastic bans in the country. When owners of the place, people of the place unite, they can actually create action. They can actually create change. And that's what happened there. We never had to go back there to actually clean up the place because the people of the place kept it clean. तो सफाई करने से सफाई नहीं होगी, सफाई रखने से सफाई होगी, and that's what the children learned. And it wasn't just something that they learned in that place. That was a lesson that they took back to their communities, their places, their friends. And that's the most important bit. Strangers into community, cynicism into action. I'll give you another example, very critical example that I've seen 3-4 years ago. I was going around the country. This was in Rajasthan, in a place, Udaipur. Close to Udaipur, I was told about a couple of villages where farmers were thinking about waste, but they had also created a collective, a water collective, where all the farmers shared water equitably. So the big farmers who had the bigger lands were also part of the bigger caste, the upper caste. And then the smaller land farmers, which were also lower castes, didn't have the wells and the bore wells. The upper caste, bigger farmers had the wells and bore wells. It was decided as a collective that the upper caste farmers, the bigger farmers, will share water equitably so that no more wells and bore wells have to be dug. And the water can be shared equitably, as well as what happened was over time, because of the collective, the sharing of water as well, the quality of life improved because the produce was predictable. Whether the groundwater went up or down, people were doing this as a society, as a community. They learned about the groundwater. They all became groundwater experts. And what that did over a period of 10 years was that through this collective, the entire community, the entire village actually broke caste divides. Today, a lower caste farmer sits as the president of that collective. It's not an upper caste farmer, it's actually a lower caste farmer. And when I spoke to them, the upper caste farmers especially, they said, well, air, water, earth, nobody differentiates whether you're upper caste or lower caste. Why should we? And that was a brilliant lesson for me to say, what is that one thing that this world needs today? What is that one thing that can unite us beyond our differences? Do you see a lot of differences today? Show of hands, do you see? And let me ask you a specific question before you answer that. In a world that we see today, I see global wars happening on energy, on power, on a small piece of land as well. My border, your border, let's move here, let's move there. And then obviously on water, on energy, on fossil fuels. We are seeing that right now. Yes or no? Yes. Let's come back home. I see conflicts all the time. I see our contents, even in today's day and age, I see differences and conflicts around religion, around caste, even around languages. Do we see that or not? We do. And today, we've moved beyond all of these differences that have been going on forever, now to the next level of differences, which is labeling. right? And I know TEDx might not like this, but in India, we're starting to label each other as anti-nationals, as andhbhakts, as cockroaches, correct? When we stop looking at people as people, when you stop looking at people as coexisting with each other, and when we start giving them labels, it's a point where we need to stand up, recognize, and say, what is it that we can do to overcome these differences? Because the litter on the streets is symbolic of the litter that we have in our minds and our hearts. And that needs to shift. A year ago, there was a global global idea search. I presented my idea. It got to the top 10. And that idea is what I want to also share today. I believe that this one act of bending down to pick up just one piece of litter could be the fastest, most unifying movement humanity has ever seen. Because it's not through diplomacy, not through politics, not even through technology. It is through a shared act of concern. Because when you bend down to pick up a piece of litter, you bend your egos and you raise each other up. This is beyond religion, beyond politics, beyond borders. I mean, every place has a litter problem. Every place has a waste problem. But that waste and litter is not just symbolic of the litter on the streets, like I said, right? It's the consumerism. It's the instant gratification. It's not being able to see each other as people, but actually as labels, as things to hate, as things to differentiate, and not necessarily as beings to coexist with. And that is what happens with the climate change and with global warming and everything else that we see around us. So I want to ask you all who's sitting here, and hopefully the audience which will see this video, can we actually come together with our shared concern for this planet, for us, for our future generations and beyond, and let's move beyond religion, politics, borders, and say, can we unite ourselves in this fight against climate change, but in this fight to coexist right now, because there's only one humanity. Literally, there's one humanity. And that's what we need to remember. In Guru Granth Sahib, we say, Pavan Guru Pani Pita Mata Tharat Mahat, right? The air is the teacher. Pavan Guru Pani Pita, water is the father. And this great mother, and earth is the great mother which provides. I think we need to remember that the four walls that we built are not the only house. No, it's not the only home that we have. This entire city, the streets, the parks are our home. So I want to have this vision that our children beyond our children, when they go out, they can have clean air to breathe. They can have clean parks to actually play around. They can have clean water to drink, and they can have good organic food to have. And that will happen if we unite ourselves. And how do we unite ourselves? Is if we can all bend down once. Imagine it. Let's think about it. 8 billion people picking up just one piece of litter. That is 8 billion pieces of litter being picked up off the streets, off the parks, off the roads around the world. It's just 6 seconds of effort, and that can actually unite us beyond any action, beyond any diplomacy, beyond any politics. So maybe 30th of January, 2027, when it's Mahatma Gandhi's Punyatithi, we call that in India as the Martyrs' Day. Maybe that could be one day when the entire world bends down to pick up a piece of litter. We bend our egos. We stand up with humility, with coexistence, and maybe the world will say, yes, humanity is one. Let's move beyond energy wars and power wars and border wars, and let's unite in this fight against climate change and to coexist. With that, thank you very much for your time.